We're doing Trey Lance again today. We've done him before, but we were kind of snarky when we did it. We're going to do him again with more of an open mind. He doesn't throw a whole lot in college. These tapes are short. Some of these, you watch some guys, it's like an hour. There's 50 throws. No. North Dakota State always wins. They kind of take him out. He's like Steph Curry. They take him out early. He does enough to win. We're trying to project. The guy has a lot to like. Some people think this guy can be flat out great in a way that maybe no one in this draft can be. I mean, you could argue he's got the most upside of any quarterback in the draft. You could argue he has the most downside of any quarterback in the draft. I think he's the most interesting prospect available this year. Let's check him out. What should we know about this game against Delaware, Jack?
So actually the reason that I chose the Delaware game to take a look at, this is actually the game I think he threw the most passes in it throughout 2019. So, and going back to like your first comment about, the first film that we did on him back when we were a little not so high on him for sure. I didn't realize at the time when we did that game was in, I think it was like 45-degree weather. So it was really cold. And that might have had a little bit to do with some of those deep balls that were really coming up short.
Yep.
And he only threw the ball 10 times in that game too, overall, after when you take out all the penalties and stuff. So the more I've watched him, the more I've enjoyed and see what you're saying. He definitely has a high upside. He also has, I think he has the lowest downside.
No question.
But you watch him throw the ball compared to the other guys, and you can see the ball jump out of his hand faster. So let's take a look at that. The way the ball comes out of his hand. Let's watch his footwork too, because his footwork I think is the cleanest of between him and Justin Fields. He's cleaner, and that's part of why I have him ranked higher.
And the first time we did it, we watched the film. We really hammered him for his lack of experience, which isn't. I mean, it's fair to point out, but we know he lacks experience. That's a weakness he wears on his sleeve. Obviously, the other one is his accuracy, which seems to be something that certain quarterbacks have improved upon. The thing that we've learned, you in particular, you've done the reporting. It was fantastic. Talking to coaches that have been around him is that everyone says that he has a special mind for the game, not just in terms of his intellect, but how he reacts under pressure in the moment. And that, I think, is why you can get excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. And the more you watch him, the more that I see, the more that I've watched all these guys, the more I see him not as being a guy that's going to take off and run. He does he really does. There are times when he does that, but he doesn't do it as often as Justin Fields. He's not. When you watch him, you see him much more moving laterally along the line of scrimmage when he breaks out the pocket, looking for somebody to throw the ball to than to take off first.
That's why I think when we're watching this, remember this was 2 years ago. He was 19, and think to yourself, you can only think to yourself. Just think. I hate when people say that. Just think. Is this guy really not pro ready? Or is it possible that the 1 year in the 17 games that he spent in a pro style offense, setting the protections himself and the route combinations prepared him better than whatever Ohio State does for quarterbacks over there or Alabama?
Yeah. And that's one of the big things that I got out of that interview that you were mentioning earlier was I knew that he was doing a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage. I didn't realize it was to the depth where he was actually making the calls, the play call at the line of scrimmage, where he had to get up there and read the defense and then we're running this over here and this over here. I didn't realize.
Impressive. He was 19. I mean, maybe other quarterbacks could do it in college. They just don't get a chance to because coaches are such control freaks. But this guy was given the opportunity, and he was so good, he committed 0 turnovers. So he must have been doing something right.
Yeah, he's the only one that was doing it. You watch Mac Jones. He's turning to the sideline. Same thing with Justin Fields, and all of them are doing that. He's one of the few that didn't have to.
And it's not because Mac Jones or Justin Fields are dumb. It's just that the coaches are control freaks, and it's you can see why North Dakota State has had success preparing quarterbacks for the NFL. They actually let them play quarterback.
Yeah.
I
think, that's exactly why Carson Wentz, I think, was so good right off the bat. They were decent his first year, but that second year they really took off. And I think that there's a possibility with Lance of a similar progression.
And remember with Wentz, he didn't have a ton of experience. He had, I think, 1.5 years. He got hurt. He had about 600 throws. And that's double the throws that Trey Lance had. But Lance's resume, his numbers were better. So keep in mind.
Yeah, and because they were I think Wentz only played one full season right there. Their numbers are pretty close to each other when you look at the one full seasons compared.
No doubt.